he has actually been talking tough. It's not the first time he has questioned our nationhood in terms of what we practice as true federalism, and it's coming on the heels of the governor trying to do his job as a chief security officer of his state to protect his people.
True.
You know that some months ago, we had this ugly incident of, attackers actually invading a church, a Catholic church in
yes, I remember, yes.
And killing over 40 persons.
Mm-hmm.
And, so it's been a back and forth between Akeredolu and the federal government on how to secure his people. And yesterday, I think he got completely pissed with the idea of Amotekun, which is supposed to be the Southwest arrangement for security, the issue of bearing arms or no bearing arms.
Yeah.
And he was able to say, look, there are videos, evidence showing that in Katsina State, the state security arrangement, the personnel and the network that is arranged in Katsina State, actually bear arms, AK-47.
Okay, so I'm going to cut you there. Sorry. So what are your thoughts if the community security in the north are allowed to use arms and then the west are not allowed to use arms? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's what Akeredolu is saying, that do we have one nation, two different laws? Where, in the southwest you can't bear arms, but in the north, in Katsina State precisely, you allow them to bear arms. And that's the question he's saying. And he's saying that, look, whether they like it or not, he's going to buy arms for Amotekun in his state. Telimo, I've always said this. When it comes to securing your people, when it comes to the lives and property of your people, your immediate family, you cannot overdo anything.
True.
Because, look, it is only when you are alive that you can now begin to answer questions on the legality or illegality of what you've done to protect yourself. I remember that when the Owo attack happened, one of the statements Akeredolu made was that, look, there was no balance of power. That these attackers would not have been that bold, and daring to come into the church and kill people and just move out without any attack. It was because there was no response. There was no balance of power. That if maybe just 2 or 3 people in that church also had arms, at least you would have seen that, what was it called? The death would have been on both sides. And I remember one of our regular callers, Obi, would always say this, that, when war jam war, there was no war. War was no more. So I totally support the governor. And one continues to question the kind of federalism we are running in Nigeria. We are not running through federalism, and that's the problem. That's the major problem. So, why would you allow that in Katsina they bear arms? They are able to carry AK-47, but in Ondo State they can't carry it. Okay, what kind of hypocrisy, what kind of structure is that? What kind of country are we running precisely? Especially when it comes to protecting the people. Ondo State has been under consistent and constant attack. And the governor has to do his job. And I think that's where we're going, whether we like it or not. Governors will be emboldened to arm their own people. And then let's go to court to go and talk about the legality of that.
All right. Okay. I hope they get this sorted as soon as possible. And I'm wondering what's going to happen by the time Akeredolu gives the arms to his people. I don't know what is going to happen next.
Tell him nothing will happen.
No,
he's the governor. He needs to secure his people. The unitary police structure that we are running has failed completely. It has failed completely, and that's why there's a serious call for state policing. Even though we have our fears with the way the governors behave, that look, if you now give them police, for them to control state police, they may use it for political reasons and all of that. But look, we have no choice at this point. All of that argument does not hold waters now in the face of the ravaging insecurity across the country. And like the father Akeredolu is talking tough, even though he's a member of the APC, which is the ruling party, but he's been very, very upright when it comes to this issue of regional security and true federalism. I drove my car for him. Honestly, he's one governor that earns my respect a lot. Governor Akeredolu of Ondo State.
I see. Okay. We just keep our fingers crossed and see how that plays out. All right. Below the mast, we have some really interesting headlines here. Burna Boy makes history as UK's Afrobeat chart show marks 1 year. Details of that on the pages of the newspaper on page 3.
I know the entertainment people will like that, and I'm not really of relation like that. I'm sorry, I'm not.
I know. I just had to take that so that the entertainment people would get something.
But honestly, the little I know of hip hop, Afro beats, and what's going on in contemporary music, I have to give a lot of respect also to Burna Boy. I see a lot of his out, the whites, people that don't even speak his language, vibe to his song.
Yeah.
And the kind of global impression he has been able to make. Again, the fact that he's a Grammy Award winner. So I think he's doing a lot of good for himself. The only thing the only reservation for him is some of his public behavior once in a while. But again, fame comes with a lot of challenges. I hope he's able to manage success. He's doing very, very well. The likes of Whiskey, Davido, Olamide, our music is out there. It's a global, very good export for Nigeria. How I wish our politicians can learn and also give us at least good image out there.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. NNPC US Corporation Exim Bank seal deal on gas project. Details of that on page 3. Do you have anything to say on that?
Well, we always have some of those contracts and all of that. The most important thing is that back home we should tidy our house, do the needful, and make sure that the country gets the benefit of all of these contracts and agreements. That's the most important thing.
Okay. Cholera kills 10 in Gombe State. That's actually sad, though. Details on page 29. Okay, 2023 National Peace Committee decrees hateful attacks. Asks politicians to sign peace accord. Details of that on page 3. Okay.
It's always an election thing. The peace committee. We have Reverend Father Kuka. We have, former head of state. I'm trying to remember his name now. The man from Niger State. He's also part of that committee. A lot of elder statesmen are all part of that committee. And what they do is that they bring presidential aspirants, to come and sign a peace pact so that they can commit to a peaceful election. So that at the end of the day, whoever emerges, we don't have a situation where we have a situation where the country goes down. So.
Okay.
For me, but there's no constitutional backing for it, so it's just mere ceremonial thing. I hope beyond the peace pact, our politicians will behave peacefully during the campaigns and during the elections too, and after the elections.
Okay, hopefully. But I was going to ask, so is that should that cover just the fact that whoever emerges the winner, there won't be any issue? Is it supposed to also cover for peaceful elections during the elections? Because we've always had issues where there is this issue here, there is fighting here, and all of that.
The thing is this. Before Wahala starts, it is these politicians that will ignite it. So if the front runners, if the political gladiators are able to commit to a peaceful election, like in our campaigns, in mobilizing the people, in talking to our supporters, we'll always let them understand that this is a game. It could go either way. Somebody will eventually emerge as a winner. We don't need to burn the country because we are holding it. You understand? So it starts with the political gladiators themselves. Look, all of these guys during elections that snatch ballot box or that carry arms, shoot at people and all of that. Politicians are the ones buying these things for them. They are the ones arming them. So if the politicians in their actions, in everything, can commit to a peaceful election, I think definitely we'll have a peaceful election. It's all about them. It is what they do. It is the lead they give that the followers and all their supporters follow.
All right. Interrogating cost of undergraduate education in federal state universities. Details of that on pages 4 and 5. And lastly, federal government Atiku trade words over economic blueprint. We have details of that on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Do you have anything to say on that?
Well, Atiku has been talking a whole lot and bashing the federal government on the economic. The thing is that when you are not in government, you have the leeway. It's always easy for you to come up with all manner of suggestions and people have also always questioned Atiku. And look, you also were part of a government that ruled for 8 years. In fact, a lot of the privatization policy of your government is what has landed us into trouble. For example, in the energy sector and all of that. So, like they always say, yes, it's easy to criticize, it's easy to make suggestions, but the fact is this: whether it's Atiku's blueprint is what Nigerians would accept, and something we'll wait to see. But he's been talking really about the economy, giving suggestions, bashing the APC government, and doing all manner of things. But for me, it's just good that he's not in government now, so it makes it easy for him.
But then he was advised. So do you think there was much he could do?
Well, as vice president, the funny thing is that a lot of the handling of the economy and all of that was left to him. If you read Baba Obasanjo's book and some of the statements he has made about the fact that he actually left handling of the economy and all of that to Atiku Abubakar, but he disappointed. He talked about the fact that he was more interested in corruption. There's been a lot of back and forth between himself and his principal. So even as vice, he was given some opportunity to really make a good impact. But the evaluation of what he did at that time is not something too good to talk about. But again, he's now vying for the top seat. He's not in government, so it's easy for him to make statements now.
Okay. Let's hope things get better. So moving on to the Vanguard newspaper, we also have the headlines, the major headline, which is related to that of the Vanguard newspaper, which says if Katsina security have AK-47, Amotekun must also be armed, Ondo Governor Akeredolu declares. So it has riders here. Says Katsina State arms its security force with AK-47. Adds we can't have one country, two systems. Denying Amotekun right to bear arms exposes Southwest to organized crime. And another rider here under the same headline is 14 women, children killed, over 30 injured as suspected herdsmen attack Benue communities. Soldier slums dies. Patrol motorbikes burnt as military engages fleeing killers. Rifle welding herdsmen take over Nsukka, Enugu Road. Monarch laments killings in southern Kaduna. Good to have you here in person.
Yeah, good to be here. Sorry that too, but it's good to be in the studio. Yes, face to face.
I know, right?
You like the face to face thing.
Okay, so I just took the riders.
Amotekun, right?
So I took some of the riders, which were not found on the Guardian newspaper. So I think we might want to address them.
Okay.
So one of them here says denying Amotekun rights to bear arms exposes Southwest to organized crime.
That's it.
Then 14 women, children killed, over 30 injured as suspected herdsmen attack Benue communities. That's also another rider under this. Soldiers slums dies, patrol motorbikes burnt as military engages fleeing killers. And then rifle welding herdsmen take over Nsukka, Enugu Road. Monarch laments killings in southern Kaduna.
Another thing that the governor of Ondo State is saying is that if it's about securing the people, why are we so reluctant to allow regional security outfits bear arms? If you're talking about the legality or illegality of bearing arms, these bandits, these killers, are all well armed. So they are not even bothered with whether it is legal or illegal to carry those arms. So the only way to create a balance of power and response is for you to have the same kind of arms. How would it make sense, for example, somebody comes into your community with AK-47, you are carrying a ding gun.
Oh, you're not even carrying anything.
You're not even carrying anything at all. You are opening on a charm or something. So I understand where you just you look at Benue, for example. Benue State, the whole of North Central. I'm sure the governor of Benue State, with all of the issues with him, would probably have been able to secure his people more if, whatever he has as security arrangement within his state, if they are able to bear arms. Look at the headlines you just read. So a lot of these guys are emboldened. Look, I always say this. The guy that comes into your community that believes he has whatever is in his brain is because he knows he has AK-47. If he knows that he's going to a community where there's an arrangement of balance of power, he's not going to come like that. And I always remember that statement from the governor of Ondo State that, look, When he got to the church with tears in his face, he said, look, the only reason why these guys came into this community and have gone scot-free is because there's no balance of power. Like, look, it would have been a balance if they know that people also have the same kind of harms.
Okay, but how about the police there?
Look, the reason why everybody is talking about state police is that the structure that we have has failed. Tell you more. Let me tell you this. Let's even bring it home. Have you asked yourself, in your immediate community, what do you see? How are people securing themselves? You see street gates. We are almost like in a mini prison. You have multiple gates. People are erecting street gates. You have people employing vigilantes, OPC. Look at the arrangements. Having guards and all of that. If you ask an average person that in your community, if anything happens, you even have the police to contact. So let us not deceive ourselves. Let's just be truthful with ourselves. The arrangement that we have in terms of policing has failed, and we need to do something different. And it is, see, Amotekun, Eastern Security Network, and all of these things are a necessity. It's a creation of necessity. People needed to secure themselves, and it is what is going to happen. And I've just said it earlier. When it comes to securing my family, myself, and my immediate community, I can never overdo anything. It is only when I'm alive that you and I can go to court, or you can take me to court to go and ask questions about the legality or illegality of what I've done to secure myself.
Okay. All right, we'll find details of that headline on page 5 of the Vanguard. Okay, here we have crisis. No living PDP will fight within. Wike tells allies. I saw that story this morning and I was just smiling when I was reading. I was just wondering, okay, Wike, what do we have now?
Wike has become a thorn in the flesh of the PDP. And as much as I really don't like to talk about this particular issue, but somehow it keeps coming up every day and it dominates the newspapers. You always find it on the front page. I see a situation where Atiku, because again, if you look at the reports that we have today in some of the newspapers, I think Atiku just wants to move on. How he would move on without the people, the Wike allies, and all of the people with Wike, and then hope to win an election, is what baffles me at this time.
Moving on, is it that he wants to move away from the party?
No, not moving away. He wants to go on with his campaign. He has the ticket of the party. He doesn't want to be held down by the Wike thing again, because the calls for Ayu, the chairman of the party, to resign. He has said, look, that may not happen. But you have a Wike that has how many governors? There's a governor of Oyo State with him. There's Autumn with him. Former governors are with him. You have a lot of people with him. And recently they just declared that, look, they are staying away from the Atiku campaign if Ayu does not step down. So I really don't know how the crisis of the PDP will be resolved. Same party and not campaign for your presidential candidate is what I'm still trying to see how that's going to happen. And in all of that, who is going to be the biggest loser? I think it will be.
Who do you think will be?
I think the party. Every one of them in the party will be the biggest loser at the end of the day. They will be the ones to lose out. Because at the end of the day, you are going to be going into a major election like this with an heavily divided house.
Do you think people would look at that?
No, it's not.
Or they just want to vote.
Look, instead of work, you see, even when you work in unison, when you work as one body, you are not even sure of winning the election, because what we have in 2023 will be a keenly contested election. In fact, an institute in the United States of America had even predicted that we may have a runoff. That it's not going to be that one-off election where immediately there's a winner and it's so clear. That the way it is structured now, with especially a Peter Obi in the mix now, a Rabiu Kwankwanso in the mix, you have the APC and the PDP, we may have a runoff situation. So it's going to be keenly contested.
I hope the runoff situation doesn't lead to some,
No, runoffs. The thing about runoff is that, when there's no clear-cut winner, you have constitutional provisions of how a president should emerge. And if it doesn't emerge at the first ballot, there's always a runoff. It's a normal thing.
Yeah, in this part of the world, I always dread runoff.
The thing is that in terms of our presidential elections,
well, if it does end that way. Details of that on page 26 of the Vanguard newspaper. Let's just run through other headlines because we still have 2 papers left. Above the mast, we have 2023 Federal government, PDP campaign council at war over economic blueprint. We mentioned that earlier. Yes. Debt details of that on page 4. Debt burden. Nigeria needs help, says AFDB's additional. Details of that on page 8.
Yeah, that's additional. That additional of the African Development Bank. We need help. The president is in the United States. I don't know whether he's back. Also talking about debt forgiveness for poor African nations, and I know that the first thing on his mind is Nigeria. I think on Monday we still did a review of the fact that as it is, both our external and internal debt situation stands at over 60 trillion naira. And that the government may be leaving in May 29 with a debt burden of about 65 trillion naira. If you juxtapose that, it means that we've added over 40 trillion naira in just 7 to 8 years. And
my question,
the scary thing is that
go on.
We especially when we look at dwindling revenue for the country, this particular period of time. But unfortunately, what we have now is a situation where our revenue cannot even carry expenditure. As we speak now, we are planning to borrow to fund the 2023 budget. What we have in the budget is almost about 67% deficit. So I really don't know how we're going to wriggle out of this trouble. So that maybe that's the reason why everybody's talking about help, talking about our debt. What's it called? Our creditors to find a way to forgive our debts. How that will happen is what I don't know.
So right from the moment I started having sense as a human being,
growing into be an adult,
I've always known Nigeria to borrow. Why do we always have to borrow?
Well,
why can't we just focus on things we have?
Financial experts and economic experts will tell you that it's not a problem to borrow. Honestly, nations all over the world borrow, but what you do with what you borrow is what matters. You can borrow. They will tell you America has the biggest debt burden in the world, but they know what they are doing with their debts. You could see the results of what they've borrowed.
So where's
in
our
terms of infrastructure,
money going
in terms
into?
Of scientific development, in terms of research, even in the living standard of the people. So even when you borrow, it's not a problem. But what do you do with the borrowing? The problem with Nigeria is that, and it's not a Nigerian thing. I've listened to top economists in the world who will tell you that some of the financial institutions, set up globally, are imperialist structures to ensure that we continue to borrow and keep us perpetually poor. These are people who borrow you money. They know that, look, you have an extremely corrupt system that would make those borrowings end up in private pockets. So as you borrow and you deplete it and you steal it and you defraud yourself by stealing all those things and it doesn't translate to anything, it means that you are poor and you have the debt burden continually hanging on your neck. So you're always limited to the whims and caprices and dictates of these people. So it's unfortunate where we've found ourselves.
Really unfortunate.
And the sad part is this: there are still models of people who have borrowed in the past, who are now taking advantage of what is happening in the world and are paying off their debts. I always give the example of Angola, an oil-producing nation in Africa. As we speak, just because of the Ukraine-Russia war and the rise in global oil prices, they've been able to make a lot of money as an oil-producing nation and have sorted all their Chinese debt. They've paid it off. So why can't we also tap into that? We've explained on the show, Sarah. I don't want to.
Let's
just move on.
I need to relocate to Angola, maybe.
You want to go to Angola?
All right. 2023 polls. Candidates to sign 2-peace accords, says National Peace Committee. It has a rider as Otedola Yayale Ahmed, Agwai, Momo, Hassan, John Eximbank, Sil Gasti. We talked about that earlier.
Let's just hope that it translates to prosperity for the country. We don't just hear all of these parts. And
is this the part where I say amen?
Let's just say amen to that. Yeah.
Okay. Tambuwal takes over from Fayemi as NGF chairman.
Yeah,
we have details
Forum.
of that.
Although we need to also mention that the Nigerian Governors Forum is not anything backed by the constitution. It's just an arrangement of the governor. Fayemi has given it over to the governor of Sokoto State, who is now the chairman of the government.
Tankers take over roads. Details of that on page 7.
That's always been there.
I don't know.
If there's a part of Lagos I don't want to go on any day or any time, it has to be Apapa.
I wonder how people that live there cope though.
What are people that even work there? The people that live there, yeah. And the funny thing is that Apapa is not completely commercial. There are quite a lot of residential neighborhoods within Apapa. Those people are suffering now. So for even people who go there every day, who work and have to go in and out of that place, I don't know how they are coping. And like I tell you, if you tell me, oh, I have this business, can we meet and all that? I say, where is it? You say, Apapa. You have to come out to meet me. I'm telling you, because again, you have to look at your safety. You don't want to drive in a place where the trucks are tilting almost towards you. Anything can happen. We've had reported cases of trucks falling off and killing people. And it has been, the sad thing about Papa is that there was a presidential task force to solve that problem.
So what happened?
The vice president was made the chairman of that task force, of that committee. He came. I remember Dr. Ifa, the transport man in Lagos, was also brought in. The governor of Lagos State also at some point was talking tough. Nothing has happened in that place. And do you know why? Tell him more. There's a big syndicate benefiting from the chaos happening in that place. And how that syndicate has become bigger than what the government can handle is what beats me.
Okay. I don't want to say anything.
You think they are not making money that you have all the trucks there?
Okay.
People are making money from the chaos there.
Let's move on. This should be the last story. Strike from the Vanguard. Okay, yes. Strike. FG may withdraw ASU's recognition over failure to submit audited accounts. We have details of that on page 8.
You see, I saw a report, and I think maybe we're still going to meet it in the papers, where the reason why ASU may not take the federal government serious. This is the reason why ASU would have trust issues as these negotiations go on. Not in the middle of the game that you want to shift the goalpost. Is it now that the federal government suddenly realizes that they needed to audit ASU? Is it now that they have just remembered that for the past 5 years, ASU has not submitted its audited report?
Should we call that a defense mechanism?
It's not defense. It's what they call, a guerrilla warfare, where you suddenly want to ambush the other person. And look, whether they delete ASU or they don't delete ASU, I always say it. I've been an activist too. Activism is more of the mind, not what you see physically. Tell him more. When you talk about activism and the resolve to go on with calls and fights that ASU is talking about now, it is more of the mind than what you see physically. Just as
I'm wondering as well. And
someone said, no, are you going to go and carry them from their house?
And I said I was even going to ask you this question. So if they now say, oh, by fire, by force, they have to go back to class, how do you think they are going to handle their jobs?
No, wait, it's not okay. When you say by fire, you see that, are you talking to kids?
I'm just asking.
Are you going to whip them back to class? So, I think the government should get serious and understand that this is a national issue that should be treated with extreme sense of responsibility. Let's get serious. Let's understand that our kids are out there suffering, and getting distracted and getting into things that they are not supposed to be going into. I've said it. The president can resolve this issue easily. He knows what to do. So all of this for me is an attempt to ambush ASU, and I don't think it's going to work.
Okay. Let's see how it goes. I'll just quickly run through this ones here. Nnamdi Kanu has not eaten for 2 days in excruciating pains. That's from the lawyer. And the rider is no harm should befall him. Igbo youths want DSS. Details of that on page 9.
I hope that because the court also ruled that he should be given proper medical treatment, he should be accorded his rights. And I think the government should do a bit of PR. Let's know the conditions of this man.
Okay.
Yes, he's standing trial for all manner of things, but he's still innocent until proven guilty. And I think within the frame of the law, he should be accorded his full rights. If the lawyers are saying this, I think the government can also do a PR for us to see his situation. Where does he sleep? Where is he being kept? What are the situations and all of that around him? Because it's also one delicate issue that I think the country should handle very carefully.
Okay. Outbound air cargo stagnates at 30.1 billion naira as inbound declines. Details of that on page 12 of the Vanguard newspaper. Let's just move quickly to The Nation. I think we have to run through this ones at this time. audit, federal government takes step to deregister ASU. Rider.
Okay, that's the chair, the chairman of ASU, and the president of ASU. Sorry, you see, I really wish the government would get serious. Honestly, it's the same government that has gone to court to get what some people have termed, I'm sorry, a Jankara judgment. It's the same government that has suddenly remembered that ASU has not presented its audited reports in the last 5 years, and so based on so they should be deregistered. But I'm saying, whether you deregister ASU, whether you get a court injunction, no matter what you do, this is a fight of the conscience. This is a fight of the mind. It cannot be done by fiat. You cannot whip them back to class. The government has to sit down, negotiate.
I think I like that statement. You can't whip them back to class.
You just have to negotiate and reach an agreement with them.
Okay, we've been negotiating all this while, and have we really seen results?
They should do proper negotiation. They know what to do. The government knows what to do, really. Honestly, I'm telling you, government knows what to do, and that's why I'll continue to call on the president. He should come down from his high horse, call ASU to a negotiation table, create a timeline for meeting up those demands, get committed to it. Let's show them tangible commitments, because the problem of ASU is that in the past, previous governments, there have always been, these kinds of agreements. Okay, they sign agreements, would implement, the government would not implement. So you come back and say, this agreement we signed didn't implement. Oh, the government will not give excuse. Oh, when you signed it, but the reality on ground now shows we cannot implement. Get them to the table, sign another set of agreement, do the ones that you can do immediately, and then give proper timelines backed by serious evidences of implementation, and I'm sure they are going to be back in class. And then the idea of not paying them their 6 months, there are people who have said, they should not be paid. I know the government will eventually pay.
When?
They will pay. That 6 months that they say they will not pay, they will pay.
All right. You'll find details of that on page 3 of the Nation newspaper. Above the mast, we have Amotekun call to carry weapons, says Akeredolu. We already addressed that.
It's a necessity. They have to just do that. You can't go to this fight with bandits who have AK-47 with guns. It's not going to happen. And I'm on this. I'm with the governor completely.
Okay, we'll find details of that on page 3 of the newspaper. Why Ondo Ogun clash over riverine communities? Details of that on page 6. Okay. Tambuwal is NGF interim chair as Fayemi heads FORAF. How Lagos can achieve good governance by stakeholders. That's on page 2. Yeah.
Well, I think Lagos politics too. We are going to be talking so much about Lagos because that's our immediate constituency. That's where we are. We need to also look at governance issues in Lagos. We need to look at how to take I always say it. Lagos has got all the potentials to be the Dubai of Africa. It has every potential. In fact,
is that why everyone is leaving their villages?
No. It has the potential. If you even look at the topography, look at what nature has given to us. You have the sea, you have the lagoon, you have the commercial nature of Lagos, but and even the population. There are countries who want this kind of population really, because with a very good population, the prosperity is assured if you can manage it very well. So we need to talk about Lagos again. The idea of sloganeering, it's a mega city. Yes, it's a mega city in terms of population, but is it a functional mega city? How do you know a functional mega city? Look at the infrastructure, the ease of doing business. How are people able to navigate around, do things and live a normal life?
Power.
The issue of power too,
stability.
Yes, and all of that. And you also look at planning, town planning. How are people living? A whole lot of things come into being a functional mega city. We have front runners now. I think if you look at the APC, Mr. Baji Sanwo-Olu is trying to come back as a second-term governor. We have Jan Dor, that's from the PDP, and then I think we have Mr. Vivo Rhodes from the Labour Party. At least those are the 3 front runners that we have now, and we'll be engaging them, hoping to know what they have really to take.
So if it's going to become the Dubai of Africa, it can. Okay, so with a lot of projects that are not completed or continued, what do you have to say about that? Because a lot of times it looks as though one government starts a project, it goes, another government comes and wants to start its own project. There's no continuity.
Well, I think we don't even have that problem in Lagos State, because there's always been the APC government. since 1999. It has always been the same chain of governance. Power has not really got into the hand of the opposition. I think the only problem was during the transition from Fashola to Ambode and Ambode to Sanwo-Olu, where we had a bit of change in that kind of transition when it comes to project. A lot of people said Ambode came and didn't really follow through with what Fashola was doing. And then you have a Sanwo-Olu who has tried to now complete some of the projects Ambode started, and also adding one or two things here and there. So it has not really been a problem. The problem has just been we need to count the cost. Are we where we're supposed to be? Are we where we are supposed to be in Lagos State with all of the revenue, with all of the potentials? Are there other ways of governing the state that could propel us easily to that height that we desire in Lagos State? So that's the issues we'll be asking some of these frontrunners eventually.
Okay, Wike to expose characters in PDP disguising as leaders. We'll find details of
good
that
for him. He should expose
on
everybody.
page 4.
He should expose everybody but himself. He's fine.
Everyone but himself.
Let him expose everybody. He try.
Okay, Otedola Ahmed Agwai Momo Hassan joined Abdul Salam led peace panel.
I think they've expanded the peace panel to bring in these other individuals. But like I said, it's not anything constitutional. This is it's just a way of maybe getting the politicians to put their pen on paper and agree to a peaceful process of transition. So see how that works.
All right, we have details of that on page 9. So quickly, let's just round up with the Punch newspaper. The major headline here: Atiku, PDP dare Wike Makinde begin campaigns Wednesday.
Yeah, the officially campaign starts on Wednesday. That's the official declaration of campaigns, and it will be interesting to see how it's going to pan out with our politicians. We just hope they are going to be responsible. We only beg them, especially with what they are already doing, that we have a country to protect. So I think the Atiku campaign wants to move on with or without the Wike camp support, because of course he has to just start campaigning. Eventually, maybe they will find a way to resolve their issues, but that's what it is. The campaign starts on Wednesday. And we'll see how that goes. Okay, we find details of that on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. I forgot to take the riders. Okay. Lamido, Olafeso, Momodu, other heavyweights back party, preach peace. PDP Governors Forum to meet Ayu, Atiku, Okowa, says Tambuwal Wabara. BOT meets Wike today. Rivers Governor vows to remain in PDP, fight for equity. No, he has always talked about the equity, but there was someone who called my attention to something yesterday, and they was telling me that, look, even a Wike that is talking about equity and fairness, that in his state, in Rivers State, that is there really equity and fairness in the political arrangement within the PDP? That the flag bearer. The flag bearer of the PDP, that's the former, what's it called, Accountant General of the state, who is still being wanted by the EFCC, who owns the ticket of the PDP, is from the same senatorial zone as the chairman of the PDP in Rivers State. Yeah, they are from the same senatorial zone. The flag bearer of the party and the state chairman of the PDP are from the same senatorial zone. So if he's talking about equity and fairness, he should also look at his back. Look at at his home and
more like taking the pecks out of your eyes
first before you begin to point at others.
All right. Okay. Let's look at above the mast. We have rate hikes may trigger recession. World Bank warns federal government.
They keep warning us. I think for me, and like some of the great leaders of Africa in the past, like Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Kwame Nkrumah, and all of these great leaders have continued to tell us, but we have not listened. African leaders need to sit back. Yes, we understand that there's an imperialist structure. We understand that it's a globalized world. But we need to sit back, Telimo, as Africans and ask ourselves, what are the economic models that can work for us? Whether we like it or not, there's an imperialist structure to create a global world order that would continue to impoverish Africans. It's a bitter truth. And so we need to sit back and look at ourselves. What exactly can work for us? I remember that one of the things Awolowo was against was this idea of always listening to all of these world bodies. The IMS of this world, the World Bank. These are imperialist financial structures aimed at always keeping the Western world up there.
But is it a function of these bodies trying to keep the Western countries up there and then impoverishing African countries? Is it their fault? Is it their fault that Africans cannot put the money they borrow to good use?
And that's what we're saying, that Africans need to sit back. Unfortunately, it's a leadership problem. Where are the leaders now to really understand these things? And that's why it's unfortunate when you now see our leaders stealing money from here. Let us ask ourselves the issue of foreign reserve. When you have a foreign reserve in dollars, you keep it out there in another man's economy. Who tells you that it is needed to actually have a foreign reserve and keep it in dollars in another man's economy? You see, so these are some of the little things. Just the same thing we talk about debt, borrowing. They keep telling you to borrow. They keep giving you all of the facilities when they know that there's a corrupt structure that would eventually, filter the money away. And then, of course, you are now heavily burdened. And those burden also is in their currency. Anyways, I just hope that we'll have leaders that will sit back and understand that, look, we can get out of this debacle. We need to sit back, create a model, political model, economic model that can work for us as Africans.
All right, Buhari woos. This is also above the mast. Buhari woos investors. Says Nigeria requires 348.
World is a global village. They are also following the news. They are listening to, the press, getting information about your country. They also look at the way you handle people who are doing business in your country. They look at the issue of insecurity. They look at the issue of infrastructure. They also look at your viability as a nation. Yes, Nigeria is one country that any investor would want to come to. We have the population. It's the largest black African nation in the world. We have the resources. We have everything. We are blessed. But what about leadership? What about governance? Those things also matter when it comes to investment. Nobody wants to come to a country that that you cannot be sure of your investment.
Okay. Dogara Lawal can't intimidate. That's AFDB.
That's additional, yes.
Yes, additional.
Addition of the FDB, yeah.
Yes.
African Development Bank, yeah.
Details
and look
of
at all
that.
the bright sides we have, and they tell him that's again the blessing of Nigeria. You have Okonjo Iweala at the World Trade Organization. You understand? We have additional, also a Nigerian at the African Development Bank. You have this, and you now ask yourself, then what is the problem with Nigeria? With all of the talents, all of the the resources we have, human resources we have, why are we now in this situation?
It's sad. ASU appeal candidates sign peace pact Thursday. That's on page 8 of the Punch newspaper. Hoodlums ransack, loot Ogun school, pupils sent home. Page that's found on pages 4 and 5. I don't know what
hoodlums will see in a school. To go and loot a school. I've been wondering what exactly will be in a school. Probably in the laptops. Secure our schools, find a way to.
At least. Okay, I'm not even sure. I don't. Details would have to be found. I wanted to say that at least, thank God, there are no casualties. But I don't know
I think what Lagos State has done with most of the public schools is to ensure that at least in the minimum the fences are high enough to protect.
Will fences prevent anybody to do anything?
Well, at least it will not be like an open field where people are just strolling. And then maybe they should train the security guys again, be very careful at the gates, ensure it's well locked and all of that, so that at least you don't just have people invading the schools with ease.
Okay, Akeredolu films as federal government denies Amoteku firearms license. Of course, details of that on page 29. That has been addressed already. 245 killed in Kaduna community attacks, says Monarch. We have details of that on page 15. And then, lastly, we have military to bombard bandits. Ask residents to relocate. We have details of that on page 29 of the Punch newspaper.
If the military is to bombard bandits and their residents to relocate, would the bandits relocate with the residents? They are coming.
Where are they supposed to relocate to?
No. Well, maybe move away. We're coming, but I'm just thinking now. Don't you think these guys will also, move with the ordinary people to be? If you have told them that you're coming to bombard them, or people leave, or won't the so-called bandits also join them and live with them and escape? I'm just saying. I
get your point, and then I'm also wondering. So, if the residents relocate, who are the military personnel supposed to be guiding?
Well, maybe there's an operation that's supposed to happen, but if you had to inform them now I'm just saying these other guys will join because again, remember that this band is too can always disguise as normal human beings too. They are in the communities too, So, but again.
All right, that's it on Trends in the Papers. Thank you so much, Fuad, for doing this with me this morning.
Thank you.
We'll just stay through till 8:40, where we bring you Mainland Focus. Do not go anywhere. Yes, it is Mainland 98.3 FM. My name is Telemore, and Fuad is here with me.
Everyone always says I look young and ageless, and I just smile because deep down, I know who to thank. Being with you is refreshing. Aquafina, my dearest paddy of life.
Your paddy of life.
Just like Kate Henshaw, everyone needs a paddy of life. So, stay hydrated and refreshed always with Aquafina Premium Drinking Water from the makers of Pepsi. Aquafina, your paddy of life.
Rolling in 2, lights, camera, sound, action.
It's here. MTN 5G, it's here. The MTN wonder.
No,
the wonder of
no. This is how your line is supposed to go.
The wonder of MTN 5G has arrived, and it's time for you to be a part of it. All you have to do is pre-order your own 5G router for 50,000 naira only. Visit www.mtn.ng/5G-router. Follow the instructions there and start your 5G life right now.
They say water no get enemy. Water is everybody's friend. But for me, my own water is not just my paddy. No. It's my paddy of life. Yes, my water is so cool and it goes through a 7-step filtration process, making sure it's safe to drink. Aquafina Premium Drinking Water. That's my paddy of life.
Your paddy of life.
Stay hydrated always with Aquafina Premium Drinking Water from the makers of Pepsi. Available in over 35 countries. It's water you can always rely on.
Aquafina, your paddy of life.
Aquafina, your paddy of life.
For a very long time, I was in a toxic relationship with my partner. I kept making excuses. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's the weather. Maybe I need to refresh. Maybe I should log out and log in again. Maybe I need to go out and climb that tree. And maybe it's just bad. But not anymore, because I found the perfect partner. MTN Broadband. With its reliable and wide coverage, no more maybes, just goals. So, hashtag MTN Broadband and I for life, hashtag relationship goals.
MTN Broadband. Get yours today and enjoy internet bliss. Visit any MTN store to get yours now or visit www.mtn.ng/broadband. MTN Broadband. Data that's got you covered.
Do you know it now takes just 48 hours to book gas a landlord?
If you want to buy land, don't look far away.
Yes, Revolution Plus Property, your number one plug when it comes to getting your land and home with ease, is back with a quick offer of pay and get your land in just 48 hours. No, darling. Also, you stand to get up to 20% on some of our selected landed properties. Terms and conditions apply.
So rush now and start buying as all our estates and lands currently